how the human immune system reacts to infection disease. He attained his undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley and a graduate degree at UCLA. In addition to being an established scientist in his field, he has spent years spearheading diversity outreach and mentorship programs at UCLA and was awarded an Academic Senate Award for creating an a fair and open academic environment. Today he shares with us why diversity is essential for good science. Dennis Montoya, the importance of diversity in science. Dennis Montoya.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow guests and other fellow Toastmasters here. When we think about diversity, we normally think about issues of fairness and representation. Now that should be strong motivation for improving diversity in our workplace, but often it falls short. Most people think it's a great concept, but the bottom line ends up putting diversity at the end of the list of priorities. And so often that's lost in the larger conversation about diversity are the benefits of diversity itself in the work that we do. So tonight I'm going to share one example in which diversity can benefit science. And science is a particularly good example because it's really thought of this sterile, systematic process which is unbiased, set apart from personal interests and backgrounds. But the reality is that this perception is not as far from the truth. And so tonight I will highlight two ways in which diversity can affect science and improve science by affecting the direction of science and the problem-solving abilities. So now obviously your ethnicity or your gender is not going to affect the chemical reactions that are in a lab. But it will affect the questions that we decide to ask. Scientists often devote their whole lives to answer one question. And so this often reflects our personal values and our background. To emphasize this point, I founded a seminar series at UCLA, which invited researchers from genders and ethnicities represented in science who have utilized their diverse perspectives to make scientific discoveries beneficial to their own communities. One such example was Dr. Esteban Bouchard, a physician scientist from UCSF. He was a Latino, grew up in the Mission District there, and around there, and he noticed that Puerto Rican children had much higher levels of morbidity and mortality to asthma than Mexican children. And so he developed a large genetic study and identified a mutation that actually inactivated albuterol. And this mutation was more highly prevalent in Puerto Rican children than Mexican children. Now, albuterol, if you don't know, is the most commonly prescribed medication for asthma. If you see people with their inhalers, that's probably albuterol. And so Puerto Rican children who had this mutation would take it and it wouldn't help, and this would lead to poor outcomes. But now, thanks to his discovery, clinicians can monitor Puerto Rican children more closely and perhaps prescribe alternative medications which will be more effective, thus saving lives. And so in this seminar series, we have profiled a lot of these such speakers, and this seminar is now still ongoing in its 11th year, still at UCLA, even though I've already left. But once you have a valuable problem to ask, the next hardest thing is how to solve that problem, and can diversity help? So traditionally, when you think about putting together your best scientific team, you're thinking about, let's get the best, highest ability problem solvers. One way you can do it is like, let's have a test on, your field of study, and whoever scores the best on that test, well, they probably have the tools that you need to then solve the problems that you need to face. However, in real life, you don't know what tools you're going to need to solve a certain problem. In science, and probably in a lot of things, one approach may work great with 5 different projects, and then may reach a dead end in another project. And so by having actually a bunch of good problem solvers who have different approaches, it's actually better than having a bunch of high ability problem solvers. And so this was actually studied a few years back where they did a computer simulation And they found that a random group of intelligent, diverse problem solvers will outperform a group of the best but homogeneous problem solvers. But that's just theoretical, right? So what does that mean in real practice? So in another study, this happened just last year, people reviewed over 9 million papers. And they looked at each of the co-authors of those papers as a sort of scientific team that developed this project. And they asked, well, how does diversity affect the impact of those papers and those studies? And so the impact was measured by looking at the number of citations that that paper got within the next 5 years. And the way you could think about it is the more people that read and cite your paper, the more useful the problem that was addressed and the better the solution was. And so they did their analysis and they looked at different facets of diversity, because diversity isn't just about ethnicity. They looked at ethnicity, but they also looked at scientific field of study, gender, the university that you're at, or the academic age of the co-authors. And which one came on top? Surprisingly, it was actually the team's ethnicity, diversity in the team's ethnicity, that was the most important factor, showing an 11% increase in the impact that that paper had on science. This was more than your more traditional measures of technical expertise, such as your university affiliation or your scientific field of study. And so these provide examples of the evidence that diversity is more than a matter of equity. It is also an issue of excellence, bringing fresh insights and important new perspectives to science. So in a way, diversity is equivocal to excellence. And so what does this mean for you? So not everybody is a scientist, but I can guarantee that diversity likely promotes excellence in any workplace that involves problem solving or affects people, such as patients, customers, or citizens. So that covers a lot of workplaces. So whether you're hiring a team or you're part of a team, value those who are different from you. As humans, we often choose to interact with people who are most like us, not only in appearance, but who are good at the things that we're good at. Acknowledge that there's actually a trade-off between diversity and traditionally what we think of as ability, and appreciate the different perspectives that diversity can bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jared. It's always very important to remember the human aspect in academia and just problem solving, and that's something that we all have to keep in mind. So now we'd like to take a minute so that we can write some notes to Dennis, and then tell him what you did well. Timer, can you tell us when 1 minute is up?
Yeah. That's fine. I'll give you one. Thank you. Yeah.